Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Todd McFarlane Day. It is Friday, so we are looking at the next issue in his Amazing Spider-Man run that I personally own. I don't have them all, so the next one we're looking at is issue 304, cover dated early September 1988. What does early September mean? At this point, Spider-Man or the Amazing Spider-Man and a bunch of other Marvel comics actually become bi-weekly and start coming out every 2 weeks. So Todd McFarlane really working his ass off during this kind of part of his run on Amazing Spider-Man, doing an issue every 2 weeks. And that's part of the disappointment, small disappointment with this issue, which I'll talk about once we open her up and look at the cover. Before that, though, I do want to mention that we are on the road to 250 subscribers. Once we hit that magical number, we will commemorate that with the milestone of a special video once we get there. Do want to mention, I've looked, real quick. I was curious about my analytics. Seems like 11% of my views are from my loyal subscribers, my subscriber base that I have, about 140, 150 people. But 89% of the views are from people who are not subscribed. So all you people out there, if you're so inclined, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos. It definitely helps us out, it helps the channel grow, and it's going to help keep, obviously, the content coming. So that is my message to you for today. And let's move on with the actual review of the comic in front of me. So the cover real quick. Great, kind of typical McFarlane shot from a weird angle, looking down from the ceiling onto the fox, right? This is the character, the villain of the issue. Great shot. I just do want to mention, we're starting to get McFarlane trying to do more of this like hatching here. See these lines? There's not as much as there will be eventually in and around these black masses. He starts off kind of throwing in these black masses and eventually starting to feather out from different areas. He's going to push that forward. So I like this aspect of McFarlane that we're starting to see here. I don't feel like he's mastered yet all the lines on the costume, right? He's trying to throw a lot of them in there. And sometimes it gets a little oddly distorted in places still, so it's not completely fully formed at this point, at least in my point of view, and it will become. And I think one of the keys is he'll start to use a much thinner line to create the lines, the contour lines all across Spider-Man's body, and that's going to work in his favor to throw more detail in there and throw, thinner rows and lots of webbing on the actual costume design as well, which is slowly pulling away from the John Romita fairly openly spaced and very kind of symmetrical look, which you can see maybe a little bit more here, right? How wide the spaces are. This is McFarlane. I don't know if it's been redrawn by someone else, the bullpen, or if he did that originally, because I know in the first few issues, yeah, there's more spacing in the webbing in the way he depicts Spider-Man, but maybe this is a production thing, and I would say even at this size, it kind of makes no sense to have all those lines. You've seen these shots of Spider-Man from far away where there are no lines on his costume in the kind of red section and it's just kind of open. If Spider-Man obviously was far away enough, yeah, you probably wouldn't see all those lines. But a pretty cool, shot here that's very different from what we're used to, at least at this point, 1988, from Spider-Man. Let's have a look inside. So what's going to happen here? We got the credits. So David Michelini is the writer. Todd McFarlane is credited as penciler, and Joe Rubinstein is the finisher, or what we call an inker. So I'm thinking maybe McFarlane does a bit of his inking, and then Joe Rubinstein kind of finishes it off. I'm not quite sure how that works, but that's kind of part of my disappointment. Nothing against Joe Rubinstein, but at this period still, Todd McFarlane's kind of trying to push his style forward. He's been inking a few of these issues himself, and we've seen flashes of what's to come. And now it's kind of a slight step back in this issue because we have someone else finishing or inking, whatever the distinction exactly is, over top. So we get a slicker, still, slightly Marvel House style look to McFarlane's artwork, which is not ideal, but still doesn't ruin the issue per se. I think, again, that bi-weekly schedule probably has something to do with this here. And that's why we're seeing that. So, great Spider-Man, McFarlane shot here, very acrobatic. He's starting to push the anatomy and exaggerate things, which is what we're going to come to love. He's going to bring it to a kind of crazy crescendo. But this is a good example of it. He's already doing it. These foreshortened legs. You saw a lot of this from McFarlane when he was drawing Spider-Man. This is a pretty iconic McFarlane shot there. So California Schemin' is the story, but we're not going to focus too much on that, as I said. So looking through this, I would say it's not as bad as with the Bob McLeod issues, which are just before Amazing Spider-Man 300, if I'm not mistaken, the 2 issues before. But it is kind of a cleaned up McFarlane. We are getting more of a sense, though, of the way McFarlane will depict the character's cartoony nature, right? It's just inked in a more kind of 80s Marvel house style. We're getting most of the cartooniness is shining through. Like, I definitely think this is a McFarlane face. This whole thing, the hand, right? The body language, very McFarlane. J. Jonah Jameson as well. So he's starting to slowly work in those exaggerations and that cartooniness, right? That's what he was kind of, I talked about, he was doing a lot of in the first few issues. And then eventually it's the detail level that's going to kind of, you know, get pushed forward. So he starts kind of making it cartoony and exciting and fun, and then starts adding just crazy detail on top, right? So again, here you can see it's just more of a pedestrian kind of 80s inking, although some of that McFarlane is still shining through with some of this hatching and stuff. Here's another example where I wonder about, this doesn't quite work, right? The webbing here, how it kind of, you know, he'll figure that out eventually. And I don't know if it's an inking issue as well. Maybe McFarlane did draw a very thin line and, you know, Rubenstein came in and thickened it up, trying to maybe reproduce more of the old kind of Spider-Man look, where McFarlane's kind of going in clearly a new direction, especially with all these different acrobatic poses here. This is a pretty, you know, fun page for 1988 compared to a lot of the other stuff that was out there. And it's going to get crazier, right? But a lot of, yeah, these crouched down, you know, he said it before, McFarlane, you know, he's Spider-Man, so he should kind of act spidery, if that's a word. Love these Spider-Man profiles. He'll throw a lot of those in there as well. And this thick border thing that McFarlane does every once in a while. I'm not quite sure why he does it, but maybe it's just, it puts more emphasis on this, maybe subconsciously. Again, not quite sure. This perspective is done very well here, I think. No, now we get into the more pedestrian page, you know, the romance page. The story, the soap opera page, I guess is what I'd call it. But yeah, if you look at the backgrounds and stuff, not much McFarlane in sight, right? The way the houses are drawn and inked, rather, in this case. So, you know, a lot of the underdrawing here could have been done by someone else and a different artist. Getting a glint of the McFarlane silhouette page that helps move the story along and get some pages done real quick. So I don't think it's gratuitous. It always works really well. I mean, it makes sense for this setting, right? And this character, the Fox, who's a cat burglar, basically. So obviously going in there to steal something. Got a bit of McFarlane here in the profile. Most profiles, even inked by someone else, still retain that McFarlane flavor. See, we're losing a bit of the McFarlane on a face like this here and here. It's starting to, you know, almost regress back to what we saw in Infinity Ink in a way. It's someone trying to apply, you know, 70s, 80s kind of hatching, Klaus Janson-y inking to a style that doesn't really invite that, right? So they're in a limousine. I'm not sure about the proportions here. It looks like the roof is pretty darn high, but, you know, storytelling-wise, it doesn't matter. You don't notice that when you're reading the story. So these pages, there's just a bit of fighting, I feel, between McFarlane and the inker there. The inker's trying to make her, you know, maybe a little prettier than McFarlane drew her, possibly. Toning down the size of the eyes and the cartooniness. I feel as maybe there's a bit of a push and pull here. So I guess they're going to Disneyland here. That's funny. Kind of a weird situation. I like how the layouts all of a sudden here kind of change a little bit, and we start, maybe this is McFarlane again, trying to use that design sense and those vertical panels to make some fairly boring pages more interesting. It's a sense I get here. I like this whole page here where, you know, he's in the foreground, background, there's no border, then the border actually appears here, but it's not defined really. It's very interesting. Now, maybe something could have been done here to go back here and finish that up. I'm not quite sure, but I think it works. And we're getting that thick panel border again that McFarlane loves. So again, he's trying to spice up these pedestrian pages here. He's not doing a bad job of it. You know, to have to draw this, it seems like in 2 weeks is pretty insane because, you know, even though he's not inking himself, I don't feel like he's cheating on the pencils anywhere or you know, leaving too much to the inker. You know, maybe in some of the finish, but all the elements, the composition seem to be there in each image, right? I'm pretty sure McFarlane had laid all this out here. This window, you know, this stuff here. So we get a bit of Spider-Man action here near the end of the issue. Maybe not quite enough to make it an awesome issue, but some more cool McFarlane Spider-Man shots. A little clever instance here where, you know, we've got the hands actually coming out of the frame, like he's pushing against two walls or two sides, right? And he's worked that into great effect to create more depth in the image, right? Little tricks like that. I think McFarlane's pretty clever for those kind of things. Good down shot, right? I talked about in the Rob Liefeld episodes, I talk about Rob Liefeld doing pretty good down shots. I think it's a shot you have to master. I still struggle at it. I've, you know, done a few recently, but it's not something I'm comfortable with. McFarlane does a pretty darn good job there. Is this photo reference? Could it be? Possibly, but you know, that's smart if he's doing that, and you know, hopefully you're going to get, you know, a high accuracy, which if this is referenced, awesome, and if it's not, even better. That's amazing. And again, this totally to me could be an 80s panel just in the finish of it, drawn by pretty much any 80s Marvel House style artist. It's only down here that we start to get a little bit of the, you know, what we'll get from McFarlane a little later on. Very McFarlane-y here, the hand. I don't know what happens here with Spider-Man. His eye's a bit smaller. I feel like this is almost like a throwback to John Byrne or Steve Ditko or something. Just real quick in this panel. Just looks non-McFarlane-ish, even compared to here, the width of the eyes, right? And back with the Fox, and we meet Proto Spawn. I'm kidding, the Prowler. And Tom McFarlane did not create the Prowler. He'd already been created in the 60s, I believe, probably by John Romita Sr. But this is the first depiction we'll see of him. In other issues of Amazing Spider-Man, we'll see it more in the more kind of pushed forward Tom McFarlane style. It's, again, because of the inking, maybe it's pretty pedestrian here, although we're seeing a few hints of, you know, that McFarlane design sense with capes that eventually he'll push to a crazy level with Spawn, right? So I laugh, but yeah, there's just something about him here where I feel McFarlane took a little bit of this into Spawn. But if you know the history, he has proven, right, that the character was created, I think, in the late 70s, early 80s. He's shown the drawings and stuff. So really what he just did is he flipped a few of the colors around, the original colors. But once you see that original Spawn sketch he did as a teenager, yeah, I mean, I don't think he stole quite as much as people kind of wanted to think he did from maybe characters like Ghost Rider. I mean, what he got from Ghost Rider was the chains, right? I think possibly chains and spikes, but you know, not a complete rip off of that. Some people back in the day used to say that Spawn was basically Ghost Rider and Black Costume Spider-Man kind of mashed up together. So that's a great Wolverine drawing. It's a little satiric, I guess, maybe kind of funny looking because, yeah, obviously. But yeah, just something I like about that. The big chin, very well done. So there you have it, everybody. That is my review for The Amazing Spider-Man issue 304. Reminding you, we're on the road to 250 subs. So if you like what you see here and you like the content, like our videos, subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow. And I hope everyone out there has an excellent day.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.